You know that question, what if? We ask ourselves that all the time, right? Well, in Portuguese, there's this really cool, kind of elegant way to talk about all those alternate pasts, those missed chances, even regrets. And today, we're going to break down exactly how to do it. We're talking about the past conditional.
Have you ever been in that spot? You're trying to say something like, oh, I would have gone, but in Portuguese, and you just get stuck? It's that super frustrating moment where you know what you want to say, but the grammar just isn't cooperating.
Well, guess what? There's a tense for that exact situation, and you're about to totally master it. Seriously, in just the next few minutes, we're going to unpack the past conditional, and you'll be able to handle those kinds of conversations with confidence. No more getting stuck.
Okay, so let's get right into it. First things first, what is the past conditional? Or, as you'll see it called, the conditional pretérito. Let's look at the building blocks.
You know, the formula here is actually way simpler than you might think. It's really just a two-part recipe. First, you take the verb ter, which means to have, and put it in its simple conditional form. So that's where you get teria, teria, all those. Then you just tack on the past participle of your main action verb. It's basically the Portuguese equivalent of saying would have plus your verb, like would have done or would have seen.
And if you look at this table, you'll see the pattern right away. The first part, the form of ter, it changes depending on who you're talking about. You know, teria, terias, teriamos. But the second part, the main verb, like comprado or dito, that stays exactly the same. Which is awesome, because it means once you get the hang of conjugating ter in the conditional, you've basically unlocked this tense for almost any verb you can think of.
Okay, so we know how to build it. Now for the fun part. When do you actually use it? Well, its number one job is for talking about things that could have happened, but didn't. It's all about exploring those alternate realities. Here's a perfect example. So, the reality is, passei o fim de semana a trabalhar. I spent the whole weekend working. Bummer, right? But the possibility, that other timeline, is teria ido com vocês. I would have gone with you. See how that teria ido perfectly nails that feeling of a missed opportunity? It all depended on a condition that just didn't happen. In this case, not having to work.
Let's try another one, just to make sure it sticks. The reality, já não encontraram a Ana em casa. They didn't find Ana at home. They were too late. But the alternate possibility, if things had been different, is teriam encontrado a Ana. They would have found Ana. It's that exact same pattern, what really happened versus what could have happened if something else was true.
All right, one last one to really drive it home. So the reality is, afinal, no fui ao cinema. In the end, I didn't go to the movies. But the possibility, if, say, a friend had been free, was that I teria ido ao cinema. I would have gone to the movies. It just perfectly expresses that idea that the action depended on something else happening first. Okay, so that's the most common use. But now we're going to get into something really interesting, a use you might not expect at all. This tense isn't just for talking about your personal what-ifs. It's actually a huge deal in journalism, especially for reporting news that hasn't been fully confirmed yet.
So, if you're reading a news article in Portuguese, you need to watch out for this. When a reporter writes something like, o motorista teria adormecido, they're not saying the driver definitely fell asleep. Not at all. That teria adormecido, would have fallen asleep, is a huge signal. It means that's the current theory or what a witness claims, but it's not a proven fact. It's all about signaling uncertainty.
So here's the big takeaway. The pro tip you need to remember. Whenever you see the past conditional used in a news story, your brain should immediately translate that to allegedly or reportedly. Think of it like a big grammatical asterisk that means, hey, this is not 100% confirmed. Seriously, once you know this, it will completely change the way you understand Portuguese news.
And this whole idea of uncertainty doesn't stop with the news. It also extends to asking questions. So the past conditional is the perfect tool for when you're asking about something in the past and you genuinely don't know the answer. It's all about speculating.
Just look at these examples and you'll see what I mean. When you ask o que é que teria originado o acidente, you're not just asking what caused the accident. It's more nuanced. You're really asking what could have caused it, or what do we think might have been the cause? It changes the question from a simple fact into an invitation to speculate and theorize. It's a pretty subtle but powerful difference. Okay, theory time is over. Let's put all of this into practice. We're going to take a look at a real news report and decode it, so you can see this tense out in the wild, in its natural habitat. So here's our text. It's a report about a gas station robbery. As we go through this piece by piece, I want you to just notice how often the past conditional or something very similar shows up. It's a great example of a journalist being really careful to report only what's known because the case is still under investigation.
Okay, right out of the gate, we see this phrase, os indivíduos terão utilizado. Now, you might be thinking, wait, that's not the past conditional we just learned. And you're right, technically this is the future perfect, but, and this is a really important insider tip, in Portuguese journalism, these two tenses are often used to mean the exact same thing, unconfirmed info. So when it says terão utilizado, you should read it as they allegedly used a vehicle. It's not a fact yet.
This next part is great. It says the vehicle se pensa que teria sido furtada, which means is thought to have been stolen. So now you have a layer on top of a layer of uncertainty. It's not just an alleged fact, it's a belief about an alleged fact. This is just a masterclass in cautious journalism.
So the story keeps building, and it's all built on this foundation of maybe. It says one of the suspects, teria saído a correr. Again, that means he allegedly ran away. This is the narrative they're piecing together from witnesses, but it's not yet proven in a court of law.
And we end with the central action of the whole incident. O homem teria ameaçado a empregada. The man would have threatened the employee, or as we now know, he allegedly threatened her. See, this is what was reported to the police. By using the past conditional, the journalist is being responsible, protecting themselves, and letting you, the reader, know that this is still a developing story.
So there you have it, the past conditional. It's not just some dusty grammar rule, is it? It's the language of what if, the language of unconfirmed news, and the language of asking questions when you don't know the answers. It's a tool for looking at the past with a lot more nuance. And that kind of leaves me with one final thought for you to take away. Thinking about your own past, what's something you teria feito de maneira diferente? What would you have done differently?